Hello, listeners. Welcome to Mindset Matters. I'm Gina. I'm your host, and we are exploring personal growth, mental health, and productivity through the lens of ADHD. Our topic today is the connection between ADHD and addiction. Did you know that ADHD and addiction often overlap? But many people don't understand why. And by the time we are done here today, you will have a better understanding. So let's jump into it. Let's talk about ADHD in the brain and how does ADHD impact brain function? It comes down to the role of dopamine. ADHD brains crave stimulation because they naturally produce lower levels of dopamine, the neurotransmitter responsible for reward and motivation. So think about that. The ADHD brain craves stimulation because they naturally produce lower levels of dopamine. And this deficit can lead to impulsive behaviors and difficulty regulating emotions. Some impulsivity behaviors include financial impulsivity, like making really big purchases without planning and racking up credit card debt. Also, risky behaviors include careless sexual encounters, driving recklessly, and experimenting with drugs or gambling. Other impulsive behaviors include interrupting others while they're speaking or saying hurtful things without thinking and just blurting out your thoughts. There are many challenges living with ADHD like emotional dysregulation, boredom intolerance, and the need for instant gratification. And these struggles can make someone more susceptible to seeking relief or stimulation through substances or behaviors. So now let's review addiction. This is Addiction 101. Okay, let's define addiction. A compulsive need for and the use of substance or behavior despite harmful consequences. I'll say it one more time. A compulsive need for and use of a substance or behavior despite harmful consequences. See, the science of addiction and how it overlaps with ADHD is interesting. Both involve dysfunction in the brain's reward system. And people with ADHD may turn to substances or activities to self-medicate symptoms. Think about it. Nicotine, alcohol, cannabis, gaming, shopping, and even food. Studies show individuals with ADHD are 2 to 3 times more likely to develop substance use disorders than the general population. 2 to 3 times more likely to develop substance use disorders than our neurotypical friends. And here's the common thread between ADHD and addiction: dopamine deficiency. Addiction provides a temporary dopamine boost, creating a cycle of seeking that feel-good sensation. Think about it. You get home from work, you open up that bottle of wine, it becomes a habit. You create a feel-good sensation based off a very maybe hard and stressful day. It also is impulsivity. So difficulty delaying gratification leads to I need relief now thinking. Emotional regulation. Both ADHD and addiction often involve an inability to cope with stress, sadness, or boredom in healthy ways. I know for me, stress was always the thing. How do I reduce my stress? What can I do to let off some stress? There's also lack of structure. See, people with ADHD often struggle with routine and organization, making them vulnerable to unhealthy coping mechanisms. And think about this. What is the impact of untreated ADHD? See, many adults don't receive a diagnosis until later in life, leaving years of self-medicating behaviors. And addiction is sometimes misdiagnosed or treated without addressing the root cause, like ADHD. For example, I was treated for depression for 25 years before anyone ever even considered that I might have ADHD. And in fact, it had to be me figuring that out and getting a diagnosis. My depression was a consequence of my childhood trauma, but also of not fitting in and realizing that my brain was different than others because of my ADHD. It would have been so much better to know this as a child and to have tools to work around it. And remember, like sometimes you hear parents saying, I have no idea why my kid does what he does or why he's addicted to drugs. Well, it very well could be a missed diagnosis. Or parents just not wanting to be open-minded enough to explore the mental health issues being presented in their child. So how do we break the cycle? All right, so the first step is recognizing the connection. And something I heard the other day was Dr. Gabor Mate stating, don't ask why the addiction, ask why the pain. That is brilliant. And I'm going to link this very good interview with him and Mel Robbins in the show notes so that you can watch it. We also want to make sure that there is an accurate ADHD diagnosis for those struggling with addiction. That is something that should be looked at immediately. Or if the person who has addiction issues has really erratic behavior, or maybe they grew up as a daydreamer or someone who kind of checks out, gets deep in thought, and then they turn to drugs, alcohol, weed to alleviate their symptoms of ADHD. It's something that needs to be explored. And there are other treatment options. There's medication, and there's therapy, and there's coaching, all for ADHD. And this can help reduce your ADHD symptoms to self-medicate. Key strategies for managing ADHD and preventing addiction is healthy dopamine boosters. Replacing those bad habits with other things that are going to be healthy, like exercise or a creative outlet, hobbies, or mindfulness practices. Connection is so important as well. We need to be connected to each other and talking to each other. Another key strategy is building structure, using routines and systems to create stability and reduce stress. And this can be done with an ADHD coach. There's also some therapeutic support you can seek out. CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's tailored to ADHD and addiction. Strategies can help manage your ADHD symptoms. Finding support groups or coaching tailored to both ADHD and addiction recovery is also very helpful. And remember, every step that you take, make sure you're doing it with self-compassion. ADHD and addiction don't define someone's worth. Seeking help is a strength and not a weakness. So, things to think about. ADHD and addiction share a neurological and psychological overlap. And understanding the connection can lead to more effective, compassionate support. If you or someone you love struggles with ADHD and addiction, seek professional help and focus on treating ADHD as part of the recovery journey. Thank you so much for joining me, and I want to thank the listeners for tuning in and encourage them to share this episode with anyone who might benefit. Please subscribe, leave a review, and connect with me on social media. And if there is a topic of interest, let me know. I'd be happy to explore it. Have a great day. And remember, you are not your struggles. Your mindset matters, and change is always possible.